Barca were dealt a big blow coming into this game, losing Lewandowski. And they're not just losing Lewandowski for this game, they're losing him for the next couple of weeks. I feel, and I felt at the time when we discussed it, that, all the big moves being made, when we were wondering where Barca were getting all of this money from, suddenly you don't have Lewandowski as the focal point in the attack in that team. And you see Barca's limitations. I mean, Nigel's right, when he's talking about the defense and how disciplined it was. Yes, but they didn't really have any other choice. What are the midfield going to do? They're going to pass the ball around and try to look for essentially nobody, because there's no one there in the attack to hold the ball up. Lewandowski plays such an important role for this Barca side, and you just wonder sort of where they might be if they didn't have him at all, not just for the goals that he scores, but how he brings some of the other players into the play, because you didn't really see that often, in attack. I mean, yes, we've talked about how Real Madrid's attack was neutralized, and they were able to boast the likes of Karim Benzema up top. But, for Barca, you do feel like, without Lewandowski there are limitations to this Barca side. And you mentioned it earlier, talking about sort of the financial situation, all the talking points leading up to the games, essentially everything boiling down to money. Barca have bet big, on a lot of these players. And it seems to me that without Lewandowski, who's the key piece in all of this, it doesn't all quite work. I mean, okay, the defense, it's more solid than it was before, but that's not going to win the games that get them these trophies. And, if we're saying, this is only the Copa del Rey, there's a lot riding on Lewandowski's ability to get back fit in terms of the La Liga title race.
JJ made a fantastic point, and I agree with you. Without Lewandowski, Barca are definitely a different team. That focal point, that outlet, especially even when you defend deep like that, you still need an outlet. You need a target man that can bring the team higher up and bring the play higher up. I'm going to say one more thing as well in this. I look at this performance for Barcelona as a must win because of morale and confidence. You look at the recent run of result, and especially when you're playing your biggest rivals, that's why I look at that as well as just the games. They didn't care how they got the job done. They got the job done. Them beating Real Madrid in their own backyard is going to be a big confidence booster for that dressing room because of the recent run of results that they had as well. I think that plays a part as well. That's something that we've got to take onto account as well.
Yeah, listen, producer Des jumping in, obviously, with the defensive statistics here about Barcelona, mentioning that there's only 8 goals in 23 league games conceded for Barcelona, and Xavi deserves more credit for fixing that defense. And in many ways, Nigel, you can say that defense does win you championships, and it does win you titles. I mean, playing in some great defensive sides, and we've also witnessed over the years, great elite sides have that defensive structure that is very difficult to break down. But the offensive side of the game today from both sides was pretty much lacking. If I'm not mistaken, Barcelona had 92 passes only in the opposition half today, and not many shots on target, and managed to still win this game somehow. And realistically, we have to give Xavi a lot more credit for what he is doing with all the BS that's happening off the field with Barcelona, with all the noise, the unhappiness, the worry about what players are going to be leaving Barcelona. The fact that he's still managing to win games like this is absolutely sensational. Now, real quickly, I've got a quick stat for you before I let you answer that one. The team that scored first in El Clasico has won 14 of the last 16 of them. And I think maybe that was part of the game plan from Xavi again. Get that first goal. Let's defend. See if we can get that win.
100%. And do you know what? It's funny though, because we're all football fans and people in the comment sections. I love it because everyone supports different teams. When your team plays absolute cack and you win a game, all you talk about is we won. And that's the reality of it. We're all going to talk about the winner. We're not going to come back months down the line and look at this game and say, oh, it was specifically this game that done this and that. No, we always get like this only when performances go bad. But half the time, if you're winning playing bad, most football fans don't really say much. And I think for me, again, you got to give credit when credit's due. My thing from a real detailed analysis of it is it's hard to defend like that against top class players. Real Madrid are not a rocket science of a team. They go out there and they have the best of the best, and they play, and the way they pass and move that ball with movements in that final third, the passes that they choose, it's all done for a reason and a purpose of high level football intelligence, and it is not easy to defend against that. And reality of it is, JJ and Ian, you know this, championships are built off what? Clean sheets and defensive solidarity first, then the rest comes into play. And that's what Xavi's doing at Barcelona.
I mean, it's interesting that Nigel says that, because you wouldn't guess, sort of with the discussion that we're having, that Barca are actually second to Real Madrid in terms of goals scored in La Liga. Real have scored two more goals than Barca have so far, but because Barca's defense is so much tighter, you could argue that that's contributed towards that 7-point gap between the two of them at the moment. But equally, I'd argue that's what makes Lewandowski so important, because when you are sort of nailing down that defensive aspect of the game, the goals that you score, because sometimes there'll be games where you need to eke out a 1-0 win or a 1-1 draw. I mean, look at that, that loss to Almeria recently. The first time I think Barcelona have ever lost to Almeria in La Liga. That's the kind of game where Lewandowski can maybe even just save you a point, with a goal. And I think, Barca still, despite the fact that the defense has improved, and you can't deny that when you look at the numbers, there's a 10-goal differential between Barca and Real Madrid. So obviously it is impressive work from Xavi, something that you wouldn't necessarily associate with him, given, the sort of style of play that he had, in his playing days. Always looking, to set up the attacks rather than sort of focus on what was going on behind him. But equally, I think at some point, for Barca to sort of win the kind of, or win at the level that their fans expect of them, and that this investment into the team, dictates that they must do, I think they're going to have to, find other ways to score goals other than just relying on Robert Lewandowski. Because as brilliant as Lewandowski is, he's not getting any younger. And, you never know with this next injury, whether it might be something that, continues to crop up throughout his career. Because for me, it feels like when we talk about Barca as a whole, with and without him, it's two completely different sides, regardless of how tight that defense is.
We got some great comments coming in real quickly before we do go to break. Serge jumping in and saying, guys, this for Barcelona was a must-win game. That comes in from Serge. Oscar jumping in. He says, Real Madrid supporter here. Those producer does have the numbers of when the last time Real Madrid won with Kroos and Modric on the pitch at the same time. It is shameful. What a great point to mention right there. We also have Steve jumping in talking about Kroos and Modric both can't start. They're not the same players they used to be. It's an interesting comment coming in right there. Shuban at the top of the show. Visca Barça, vamos. He's excited. Serge jumping in once again. The Clasico is always awesome to watch. This one and his next comment. Sleep. Zzz. He's got all the Zeds right there. Didn't enjoy this game as much. And the final comment I'll leave you with, Nigel reo-coker, is Araujo is Vinny's daddy. Vinny Jr.'s daddy. Vinny just didn't turn up today. Just didn't turn up. Comment?
I'll talk.
He didn't turn up.
Cup game. It's
he didn't turn up. He's arguing. He's fighting. He's disagreeing.
Yes,
Listen,
he is. There was a lot of handbag moments in that game. A lot of pushing and shoving and fake gangster stuff, keyboard gangsters or whatever it is.
Don't you guys have that useless word for it in American, testy,
What?
or whatever it's called, or chippy or something like that?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm British, but anyway, he didn't turn up. But for me, and like you said, come on, it's the cup. It really is the cup. You're going to see a different animal when it comes to league and Champions League. We've seen it before.